Howdy! Welcome to the Gateway to the Smokies podcast. This podcast is about America's most visited national park, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding towns. This area is filled with ancient natural beauty, a deep storied history, and rich mountain cultures that we explore with weekly episodes. I'm Joseph Franklin McElroy, man of the world, but also with deep roots in these mountains. My family has lived in the Great Smokies for over 200 years. My business is in travel, but my heart is in culture. Today, we're going to talk about the North Carolina Folklife Institute with Director Sarah Bryan. But first, a few messages. Imagine a place evocative of motor courts of the past, yet modern and vibrant, with a chic Appalachian feel. A place for adventure and for relaxation. Imagine a place where you can fish in a mountain heritage trout stream, grill the catch on a fire, and eat accompanied by fine wine or craft beers. Imagine a place with old-time music and world cultural sounds. There is no other place like the Meadowlark Motel in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. Your Smoky Mountain adventures start with where you stay. The Smoky Mountains and surrounding area is a vacation destination for all seasons. Some of the nation's best hiking trails, waterfalls, outdoor adventures, and family entertainment can be found right here. Start your adventure by using smokiesadventure.com, Smokies, plural, adventure.com, to explore all the wonderful features of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. You'll get trail maps and find out about waterfalls and Cades Cove and the elk and much more. And then check out all the awesome family attractions and entertainment you and your entire family can enjoy in all of the Smoky Mountain and the surrounding areas. The goal of Smokies Adventures is to become the leading information portal for adventures and experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains. There are some events coming up. The first one I want to talk to you about is music. And it's called Smoky Blue Rain, and it's on July 23rd at 6 p.m. It's the Smoky Blue Rain is a trio of led by with three great musicians: Len Graham, Phil Moore, and Amos Jackson. Their brand of Americana music is an infectious blend of folk, light rock, blues, jazz, and a touch of traditional country. They met through a mutual friend, and from the very first note realized that they had something special. So we're going to have that event on the Saturday night at July 23rd at the pavilion, the back porch pavilion, in the back recreation area of the Meadowlark Motel. We have a sort of a wonderful performance venue, and we're also going to have a free barbecue and there'll be music after the show too, up until whatever the night provides. So admission is free for motel guests and Heritage Club members, and it's $10 for all others. And you need to do an RSVP. So call 828-926-1717 to get your tickets. Again, 828-926-1717. Now, some of you have heard about TikTok and Instagram, but especially TikTok. And a local guy here named Zeb, who's part of the J Creek Cloggers, has gone viral with hundreds of millions of views for his clogging style. And so the Meadowlark Smoky Mountain Heritage Center and the Meadowlark Motel proudly announced a heritage event that features an evening of dinner and then dancing from the legendary J Creek Cloggers featuring Zeb on Saturday night, July 30th. And it'll start again. The night starts with a delicious barbecue dinner at 6, and then culminates with a rollicking performance by the J Creek Cloggers at 7:30 p.m. They will perform multiple examples of traditional mountain dancing, as well as teaching the audience several fun dance steps. Group leader Kim Ross, who was here a week or so ago on our podcast, will also give a short talk on the history and traditions of mountain dancing. Grab your partner and come and join us for a memorable, fun-filled, classic mountain heritage evening of dining and dancing. Admission is free for motel guests and Heritage Club members, and $20 per person for folks not staying at the motel. Give us a call at 828-926-1717 to reserve your room or just to get a ticket to the dinner and dance. It's going to be classic old mountain type dance hall stuff, and you're going to have a great time, and then it'll be put up on TikTok, and maybe it'll go viral again. Now, big news is on August 12th through the 13th, there's going to be a songwriters camp that features Grammy award-winning artists Jim Lauderdale and Charles Humphrey III, along with award-winning artists Darren Nicholson, Clay Mills, and Charles Chamberlain. It's a 2-day event of interactive songwriting instruction with some world-class music, and you'll get a demo tape produced for your participation, for what you write and what you perform. And then there'll also be a concert by the Songs from the Road Band on Friday night, and then again a barbecue dinner and an all-star concert with all those artists on Saturday night. This is an event like you'll never get in your life. Jim Lauderdale, wrote most of the hits for artists like George Strait, and Charles Humphrey is a Grammy Award winning himself and has done some major songs. It's going to be incredible. You're going to learn a lot. The price is $675 per person, includes all the activities, the demo tape, and the concerts and the dinners and everything else. And there's special rooms available if you're not from the area. And you can call into 828-926-1717 to get the details. Get yourself a room, get yourself a ticket, and come on. And there's just also for people who just want to come to concerts, there's concert tickets available as well. Again, call 828-926-1717. So today we're going to talk about the new North Carolina Folklife Institute, and the director of that is Sarah Bryan. The Folklife Institute is an organization that for more than 4 decades has been dedicated to the preservation, appreciation, and understanding of folklife heritage and culture in North Carolina. Now, Sarah is an accomplished writer, author, and musician. She is also the editor of 2 notable old-time music publications and enjoys collecting old 78 RPM LPs and supporting animal welfare. She's a Tar Heel basketball and New York Mets baseball fan. She lives in Durham, North Carolina with her family and has a pack of dogs and cats to support her efforts. Hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Fine. I'm doing good. Hey, listen, I'm not going to hold it against you that you're a Tar Heel born and bred, but since I went to Duke, but you do live in Durham, so you got to live in enemy territory, right?
I live about 3 blocks from campus, so I have to represent extra hard for the Tar Heels here.
All right. Which, the West Campus or East Campus?
East Campus.
East Campus. So you're like near downtown, right?
Yeah, quite close. Yeah, in Walltown.
Cool. Durham's become a little bit of a foodie town, right? Just like Asheville.
It really is. It reminds me a lot of Asheville. And just huge number of people moving here every year. It's very much like Asheville.
After Duke, I lived in Durham for about 7 years, and I enjoyed it very much. It's a cool little town. If you're visiting North Carolina, you want to go across the whole state. I say Wilmington, Durham, and then Asheville, and then of course Maggie Valley for the small town experience.
For sure.
All right, cool. We're especially excited to talk to you about you and your role in the North Carolina Folklife Institute, as we share many of the same core beliefs with the Heritage Center and at the motel. Mm-hmm. First, let's learn a little bit more about you. You have an interesting background, an amazing resume.
Thank you.
So you were born in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. How's it like being born in a beach town?
I spent most of my childhood in Myrtle Beach, and when you're born in a place, or I was actually we moved there when I was 2 weeks old, but my father's family, going back many generations, is from that little part of South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach in particular. And I think when you grow up in a place like that, you kind of don't know how weird it is.
Uh-huh.
I have a friend childhood friend, we were talking years after we both left Myrtle Beach about what it's like to be from somewhere like that. And she pointed out that it gives you kind of an altered sense of reality. if you grow up like down the street from Ripley's Believe It or Not, or giant fiberglass octopus statues.
Well, growing up in a little tourist town, I sort of get an idea of what you did. And, from Duke, we always went to Myrtle Beach after, for the spring break. It was like, and how bad can a place be when, you can take a back road and find an all-you-can-eat seafood place on the middle of nowhere, and you paid as you went in because they were expecting you to just stay there until you were full. But you also spent some time in growing up in Carolinas and Virginia Beach. In Virginia, where were those?
Yeah, well, most of my family going back, since early colonial times has been in the Carolinas, both Carolinas. And when I was about 9, we moved up to Northern Virginia, which is where my mother grew up. And I missed the Carolinas badly when I lived there, especially in the springtime, but because just that little bit of geographical distance makes all the difference in climate when the flowers come out and when it gets warm.
Oh yeah,
it was a great place to spend my teens and my college years. So I feel fortunate to have been up there.
Well, your parents surely must have influenced your love of history and writing. Your mom is a distinguished author, publisher, and historian in her own right. What can you say about that?
Yeah, my mom is a wonderful writer. Her name is Christina Freeman Bryan, and she has had an interesting career. She's 72 now and lives with me and my husband here in Durham. And she went to Carolina and studied originally to be a medievalist. Medieval Latin is her specialty from college. And but has done all sorts of things over the years. She ran a school for several years in Myrtle Beach, the Montessori school that I went to as a small child, and has written a lot of really wonderful historical fiction about the Civil War era, about the Jamestown colony, about the Lincoln assassination plot. And she's an amazing researcher, finds out just incredible depths of information, writes these great books, and then just moves right to the next project because she's so excited about the next thing to learn about. So she has the stack of manuscripts. I hope someday she'll be shopping to publishers because the world needs to see them.
All right, that's great. Well, we got to take a break now, but we'll come back, talk a little bit more about your personal history, and then get into your job.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with the Gateway to the Smokies podcast and my guest, Sarah Bryan. So some of you know I like to have my craft beers on this show, and I will tell you about the one I'm doing now. But first, as I mentioned, I was at the Wicked Weed Brewery in Asheville the other day, and they got a really great IPA called Freak of Nature. I advise you to go there. But I just discovered one we have at the Meadowlark, and it's not a local beer, but I don't necessarily just dismiss that. Even though this area has 50 breweries, there's people that make good beer elsewhere, and I'm liking this one. It's a double IPA called Never Better by Carando Brewing Company from California, believe it or not. So, but anyway, hey Sarah, glad to have you back. We were talking about your mom, but your dad was a professor of American literature. But it was also, I thought this was interesting, renowned as a miniature golf course designer, including most of the elaborate ones on the Grand Strand, right?
That's true. Yeah. My father, James Bryan was his name. He went by the nickname Potty, which is a long story. Potiphar was the origin of Potiphar in the Bible. He was from Myrtle Beach, grew up there, and his father and grandfather had been involved in developing the area early on, and particularly in building some of the golf courses there, the big golf courses. Mm-hmm. And starting around the 1950s, I'd say late 50s, early 60s, he started working on his own miniature golf courses. His father put him in charge of an old golf driving range they had there, and he had the idea to make it sort of a jungle environment miniature golf course, and that's where that idea was born with him. And he and partners through the years developed the jungle golf style of miniature golf courses. So if you've been to Myrtle Beach, you know what they look like. It's the big mountain of dirt in the middle of the lot with tropical plants, waterfalls, jungle animals, which includes somehow savanna animals. I don't know why. And so that has over the course of his life, that really took off from the late 50s to his death in 2002.
Now he did a couple of Maggie Valley, didn't he?
I am not certain. I think he did before my time. He did one in Boone. In the 70s, early 70s.
I think there's one that's been around for a long time, and I don't think that's a jungle type golf, but there is one that is more of a jungle type thing, I think. So
that's probably his.
And it looks, actually, when I first saw it back 20 years ago or something like that, I said, wow, that looks more like a Myrtle Beach
there you
go. Thing. So, but it's become part of the fabric here, So and you're actually come from a diverse home. You grew up and speak Spanish. Your family is a Cuban descent, right?
My mom, my mom is half Cuban.
Yeah, and I assume you have a real admiration for cultural diversity.
Of course.
And is that where you love for exploring, folk life and being a writer and musician, and you got your BA degree in American Studies from George Washington University, and MA degree in folklore at UNC. I won't hold that against
you. We'll call a truce for that.
Yeah, but in 2005, you joined the North Carolina Folklife Institute. So was that sort of the first big career move for you, or were you doing something before that?
That was an incredibly lucky break for me. I was not long out of grad school, and the North Carolina Folklife Institute, which at the time was directed by Beverly Patterson, who's a wonderful folklorist in Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. She and the Folklife Institute were working with the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area on developing their traditional artist directory. And she brought on two newly hatched folklorists, which were me and Mark Freed, who you probably know from Boone. He's a prominent musician and arts leader in the area. Yeah. But we were both, in and just out of school. at the time. This was long ago. And yeah, my first job was on the artist directory. And so basically the Folklife Institute turned us loose. Mark was in the northern counties, and I was from like Madison and Buncombe counties to the state line, and the Cherokee Qualla boundary area. And it was a wonderful job. I mean, we just explored, each of us separately explored the counties in our assigned region, go around, ask people who the traditional artists are. In some cases, they were, prominent people with, well-known careers in their art form. And in other cases, that would be, an elderly person who'd retired from a career in something not at all art or music related, but, kept up their art form just on their own at home because they loved doing it. Nobody, hadn't had much publicity before, but we got to write profiles of all of these folks, and it was incredibly fun.
Well, you must have loved it, because by 2017, which is a fairly short period of time, you became executive director of that really esteemed organization. So I guess that was a lot of hard work, right?
Hard work, but really fun work.
Really fun work.
All of the projects we're involved in are just always such a pleasure to work on.
Well, I mean, but you also, here's the interesting thing that I didn't know, and found out, that you became an old-time fiddle player during that time too. So you had to have time to practice, right? But you were doing a lot of good work. So have you played with any great Western North Carolina fiddlers?
Well, let's see. I started playing old-time fiddle when I was in my teens.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually up in Northern Virginia, and yeah, but have continued playing all along. Yeah, moving to North Carolina I came back down here for grad school in 2000, and one of the great things about that was proximity to so many wonderful old-time musicians.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So did you get to play with any, or did you have any mentoring from some of them?
Yeah. It's hard to narrow down. There's so many amazing fiddlers in the area. If I had to pick one fiddler to mention in particular, a friend who I've been lucky enough to play with at times, but not nearly as much as I'd like, is Paul Brown, who lives in Winston-Salem. He is wonderful fiddler, banjo player, singer, has this style that I wish I could play in, very sort of sweet and rambunctious at the same time. And he also he's been this great conduit between generations, because when he first moved to the Mount Airy area, he got to know Tommy Jarrell, Ernest East, Fred Cockrum, all the sort of pantheon of great musicians in that area. And he's really served as a champion of them over the years. So now, I mean, for a lot of us who were not able to know those people, through Paul, we've gotten to know not just what great musicians they were, but what interesting and knowledgeable people they were.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a life enriching experience to work with people that have such tremendous depth, and they're trying to actually pass it on to you too. And so, I think that was probably very, very profound for you. But I also know that you were on Garrison Keillor's Prairie Home Companion. How did that come about?
That was an exciting experience, not in all the right ways, though. I have severe stage fright, and which complicated that experience because it was in front of a live theater audience. Prairie Home Companion was going to be in Durham, and the show invited several old-time musicians in the area to be part of it, and of course I couldn't turn that down. But once I got there, the stage fright kicked in, and before the show, we were backstage, and Chris Brashear, who's the band fiddler, was the band fiddler at those days, for the show, was showing me and the other guest fiddlers this tune that we were going to play when our segment came on. And because I was starting to think about what it was going to be like in a few minutes when there was these hundreds of people looking at me and billions of people listening, my mind went blank and I couldn't learn the tune he was showing us. It was, as soon as he played it, it was gone. So that was the first tune we were going to play that evening. And because as soon as they started, I realized I didn't remember what he had just showed us. I was like, sort of holding the bow a little bit above the strings and pretending to play. if you've seen the episode of Andy Griffith when Barney's in the choir and he has to use his lips because he can't sing, it was like that. But so the sound engineer was, he was listening and he kept thinking that my microphone was not working. So he came out at one point and was like tinkering with it. And while he was standing there, he realized that I wasn't playing and he sort of like winked and gave me a thumbs up and went off stage. But then the next tune that we were to play was Soldier's Joy, which is my favorite old time fiddle tune and the one that like all fiddlers pretty much know. So I really wanted to play on that one. But at that point, my microphone was off because I'd only been pretending to play before.
Oh, no.
But Chris Brashear and the other fiddler, Kenny Jackson, who's a really great North Carolina fiddler, they didn't need a third fiddler between them. So it sounded wonderful.
Oh, that's so you played, but you didn't. Okay, well, that's a good story. At least you got asked to be on there.
Exactly, that was an honor. Yeah.
So you've also become a writer, a great writer, and you have 2 books out, right? And so when we have to take a break now, but I want you to tell us about the 2 books, and then we're going to talk about some of the, the stuff in the mountains in Western North Carolina that you know about.
Great.
Howdy, I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with the Gateway to the Smokies podcast. My guest, Sarah Bryan, who's the executive director of the North Carolina Folklife Institute. So Sarah, you're a writer and you've got a couple books out, one coming out soon. What are those titles and what they're about?
Thanks. There are 2 titles I've co-written. I was one of the 3 co-authors, along with Beverly Patterson and Michelle Lanier, who is now the director of historic sites for North Carolina. A book called African American Music Trails of Eastern North Carolina. And that came out of a North Carolina Arts Council project of the same name, about the historic and living Black music traditions in 8 Eastern North Carolina counties. And, just the incredible impact musicians from there have had that hasn't always been more widely recognized.
Right.
That was, I believe, 2014. 2015, my husband, Peter Honig, and I co-wrote and co-compiled a collection for Dust to Digital, which is a great label out of Atlanta. It was a 2 CD set. The CDs were 78s from Peter's collection of mostly old-time mountain music and blues. And the book was antique anonymous photos of early Southern life from my own collection.
Oh, cool.
So that was 2015, and that's out of print, but it's still, I believe the music is still downloadable.
And what was the name of it?
It was called Lead Kindly Light, named for the hymn. Pre-war Southern music and photographs, I believe, was the subtitle.
Cool. And then you're writing one now?
Yes, yeah, I'm co-writing with potter and historian from Randolph County named Hal Pugh. We are working on a history of Southern traditional pottery, which is a huge story, and we're having fun figuring out how to fit that all into one book.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, but
you have pottery trails all over North Carolina.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. Yeah, North Carolina especially.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, you also write and the editor for the Old Time Herald, which is about old. It's about old music. Is it also about old time dancing?
It is, yeah. Yeah, the Old Time Herald. The musician and field recorder Alice Gerard founded it in 1987 when she was living in Galax. And yeah, it's about traditional old time music, particularly in Appalachia, but also other parts of the South, and wider traditions elsewhere that are related to old time music. Other parts.
Is there any memorable stories you wrote about the Smoky Mountains areas?
Oh gosh, well, not that I've written myself, but I would. There have been some great articles about Western North Carolina. In fact, our current issue has a cover story about Beech Mountain musicians from the Watauga, Avery County line area. And the old fiddler Buena Vista Hicks is the cover girl. She was a great musical matriarch from Beech Mountain.
Cool. Anything from Haywood County?
Haywood County, yeah. Let me. We've definitely covered Haywood County stories. We had an article sometime back about the is it Soco Gap Cloggers? Was that the name of the early team
with Joe Sam Queen and
yeah,
the family?
Yeah, and that danced at the White House in Roosevelt's era. That
we had it on the show a few weeks ago. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's a great tradition that's been going on for generations.
Cool. So I love that that you work with this Folklife Institute. I mean, it shares a lot of the values and objectives, promoting the preservation, appreciation, and understanding of the folklife heritage and culture in North Carolina. We're focused on the Smoky Mountains area, but it's the same sort of passion. I saw that you had one interesting program documenting the early barbecue pits. I got to go find this because I'm getting into. I've been a big fire-based cook for a while, and I'm getting more and more in that. Tell me about that. So what did you find out that's fascinating about barbecue pits early on?
That was a project. Oh gosh, probably 8 or 10 years ago that the previous director Joy Salyers launched, and the part that I was able to play was going to interview 2 sort of founding fathers of the the Western barbecue tradition. Mr. Stamey and Mr. Monk, one in Greensboro and one in Lexington. And I didn't tell either of them that I'm a vegetarian. But it was lovely being in their restaurants. It smelled great. I brought barbecue home for my family, and yeah, just lovely.
Well, you can do some wonderful things with vegetables and smoke.
It's true. Yeah.
There's a recipe that comes out of the middle of the state that I love and use. It's this African American chef. I forget her name right now. I'll post it at some point. That smoked beets, and then she makes cornbread with smoked beets. So you get this red. It's fabulous. Oh yeah, and burnt sugar. Smoked.
Oh
beets,
wow, that sounds good.
Oh, it's incredible. So there's a lot of vegetables that are really enhanced by the grill experience. People know, about doing shish kebabs and things, but there's a lot more that you can do. Any programs, cooking programs on mountain cooking or Cherokee cuisine?
Yeah, absolutely. That's we're really love being involved in programs about Appalachian food in particular. Yeah, we've had some classes through a program called In These Mountains, which is sponsored by South Arts in Atlanta, and have several food related courses. Right before the pandemic began, we were working with Nathan Bush, who is a Cherokee herbalist and artist and language specialist, and his mother, Mrs. Onita Bush, is also a really renowned herbalist, and so he gave a great class going into the woods in the area, and showing which plants are edible, which you got to stay away from, which have different medicinal properties. And more recently, and in fact going on now, we're sponsoring an online class called Mountain Vittles, and it's taught by William Ritter.
Oh, William, I know.
There we go.
We had him on the show a few.
Good.
Yeah.
William from Mitchell County, and he is teaching. It's a great class. We've only had 2 so far, and it's going to go into the summer and early fall, and we are still taking students. Students can still register. Anyone 13 and up, and it's free.
Oh,
great
wow.
class. Just about heritage Appalachian crops, cooking, baking, stories having to do with food, songs having to do with food.
Wow.
So
we've built our first garden here, right, at the motel. We also have put a field in at a farm what we have. We're starting to really get into, I don't know if you've heard of candy roasters. We got a hold of a bunch of candy roasters from William Ritter, believe it or not.
Excellent.
And we're planning on doing a lot of those big breads and things like that. For those who don't know, candy roasters are like in the pumpkin or squash family. They're giant but oblong, and they only really grow well in the mountains. But they're really sweet and really fantastic. So I love that you're doing this kind of stuff. We're gonna actually open a restaurant focused on mountain heritage food with a lot of traditional things, and we just had, I don't know if you know Isla Hatter.
Yes, right? Yeah.
She was just here day before yesterday, and she did a program here, and we had over 30 people show up, right. To stay here and learn how to forage and use it to make meals and things. So it's something that people are very interested in, and that's great. I'm gonna look up that program you guys are doing.
Definitely, yeah. Join us, please.
Yeah. Another big thing that you're involved with is festival productions, right? Documenting and talking about what's going on. Do you have any favorite festivals in the western north part of the state?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's one that it would be hard to narrow down. My favorite old time festival in the world is the Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention.
Okay.
And I haven't gone for the last couple of years because of just pandemic strangeness, but yeah, I've been coming to that since I was about 20, and just fabulous festival. It's one of these events where the old time musicians from all over the world really come together and meet the people who grew up in the traditions and are carrying it on from home, and vice versa. It's a wonderful Another one I love, and I'm not certain if it's still happening, is the Fading Voices Festival. And it takes place in Snowbird, the Cherokee community near Robbinsville. And it's Cherokee gospel music. And
Oh,
they're
wow.
wonderful, wonderful quartets, mostly from the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians in North Carolina and Tennessee, and also from the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. Quartets will come from there to this festival, and just, you know, incredibly beautiful music in this really, really beautiful little mountain cove in Snowbird. So I hope
Wow.
that's still going on.
I hope so too. I'm gonna look it up. You know, one of the most successful, I thought, you know, the hospitality thing I actually saw in Barbados was a gospel brunch on Sundays, and it was huge. It was a big, fantastic success. People, it was all, you know, really sort of old time, you know, gospel music in a surprising place to have it. It was hugely successful.
That
I
sounds
toyed with the
wonderful.
idea of doing that here. But you know, didn't the Folklife Institute at one point put on the first statewide folk festival?
That was our origin, actually. We
Yeah.
were founded in 1974 to help the actually as an arm at that time of the Folklife program of the North Carolina Arts Council, and they were putting on a statewide Folklife festival here in Durham. And it was sort of the lead up to the bicentennial. So, you know, there was a renewed interest in American traditions of all kinds. And that first festival in 74, it's incredible looking back at who all was there. It's like Tommy Jarrell, Elizabeth Cotton, Willard Watson, just,
Wow.
you know, just some of the most wonderful North Carolina artists.
Have you been involved with the Folk Boot Centers Festival here in Haywood County?
We haven't, but would like to. Yeah, they do great work.
All right, cool. I'll get Bob to introduce you. He knows that pretty well. Well, hey, we got to take a break, and then we'll come back and continue talking about folk life here in the mountains.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with the Gateway to the Smokies podcast and my guest, Sarah Bryan. So Sarah, you know, one of the reasons I, started doing the mountain heritage stuff here and got involved with is because I really believe in the importance of community education and, and getting, things right where the community can be involved with it and even online, interactions. What do you think about the importance of that and also the importance of oral history documentation that comes out of communities?
I think it's an essential part of all of our lives, and community arts and oral history, and far too few people nowadays experience that in a full way. I'm not one of these people who thinks that the old days were better across the board, but I do think that the closeness of
There's a lot of
community.
beauty in it. There was a lot of beauty in it. There was a
Absolutely.
lot of there was also
Absolutely.
a hardship and ugliness in there, but trying to preserve the beauty and letting the nastiness go away, I think is important.
Exactly. And I think that that closeness of community is something that in a lot of ways many of us have lost, and all the more so over the last 2.5 years with the pandemic. But that makes it all the more essential for organizations like both of ours to create these opportunities whenever we can to help, especially young people, find out about traditions in their communities, get to know elder artists or storytellers, people who know the community history. And the more opportunities there are, the better. That makes me think in particular about the JAM program, the Junior Appalachian Musicians.
That's a great program.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of a stellar example of creating new learning environments of whereas a young person 100 years ago may have been able to go to his next door neighbor or her next door neighbor and learn the banjo. Those links don't exist as strongly or as frequently now. So creating these classes essentially for young people to learn has been an amazing contribution to old time and bluegrass music, because now there's this whole generation of young, just incredibly good musicians who are graduates of the JAM program in counties throughout the Appalachian South, and thank goodness for what they do.
And you've actually cultivated networks so that they can interact and learn from each other, and to also promote artists, and created a handbook for artists to promote themselves. Tell me about that.
This is a good chance for me to tell listeners, please watch this space, because the artist handbook is actually being revised as we speak. The North Carolina Arts Council and Evan Hatch of Folkmoot. Evan, when he was with the North Carolina Folklife Institute, was actually the person who started this project. And it's an online handbook in PDF format of ideas, resources for traditional artists to get the word out about what they do, essentially, to help them make a living if that's what they want to do with their art form. Find opportunities to learn and to teach and pass it on. So that's being revised, and things change so quickly, especially in terms of technology, that it needs a revision pretty quickly. So that's what we're working on now, and I hope that it'll be back up in a new form in a few months.
Well, that's, I guess the work on things like the Blue Ridge Heritage Trail and is all part of that work to give artists the ability to promote themselves.
Absolutely.
And you did is that the statewide directory of artists as well, or is that a different initiative?
That's a different project, and one that I'd also like for us to return to and revitalize. It got started with artists from Warren, Vance, and Halifax counties in central North Carolina. And a directory with very much like the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area's traditional arts directory, modeled after that, but aiming for a statewide group of artists.
And I love that there's a sense that you have to promote the diversity of what was what built our communities. It wasn't just Scotch Irish settlers. And you've mentioned some Cherokee works. How about the Afro-Appalachian influence in the western part of the state? Are you aware of those and documenting those or talking about those anywhere?
Yeah, I think, I mean, of course, Black Appalachian communities have always known that they were there themselves, but, you know, those of us from other backgrounds have not, you know, known as much as we should have about them. And there's one person whose research especially, excuse me, I'm gonna have to pause for a second and cough. One person who's done some really wonderful work in southwestern North Carolina is Ann Miller Woodford. She's the founder of an organization called One Dozen Who Care. And she's written a wonderful book, which I happen to have here, if I can hold it up to the screen. It's called When All God's Children Get Together, Celebration of the Lives and Music of African-American People in Far Western North Carolina. Yeah, and it talks about communities, particularly in Macon, Cherokee, Clay counties, in Franklin area especially. These very old African-American communities that have wonderful, rich histories and traditions, and she's helping, you know, bring a spotlight to that.
Wow. Well, you know, this is all important work. There's so many other things that you do, you know, and we're getting to the end here. You know, I like to ask my guests, what are some of your favorite places in Western North Carolina? Where would you recommend people go?
Oh, wow. All of it. Gosh, I mean, it's so hard to.
Well, let's focus in on Haywood County.
On Haywood County, I love Haywood County. Let me see. There is right north of you, or right up the road from you. One of my favorite views in all of North Carolina is on the road between Maggie Valley and Cherokee. If you're driving towards Cherokee, you look out to the right, there's this incredible, beautiful view of Soco Gap.
Oh, wow. And is that the one they call the most photographed view in
that is the one. It's got the little viewing tower, and it's, I mean, it deserves that.
Yeah, it's a great view. Yeah. I've been there since before I was born. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We have to call it quits now, but where would you like the people to go to find out more information, or look up your books, or read something? What are the important things for them to find out more about you?
Well, I would love for them to visit our website for the Folklife Institute, which is ncfolk.org, ncfolk.org. And also, if they're interested in old time music in particular, oldtimeherald.org. They find a lot about Appalachian and in particular Western North Carolina music.
Cool. And what about you? You got books, you got some things. Where would they find out about that? Do you have a Facebook page or anything like that?
I do, yeah. You can find me on Facebook for sure.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you again. We might have to have another show because you got a lot to talk about. But it's been fabulous to have you.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the Gateway to the Smokies podcast. You can watch this podcast live on Facebook at facebook.com/Gateway to the Smokies podcast. We also have all the episodes recorded and with transcripts on smokiesadventure.com. There's a link at the top that'll bring you to all the different episodes that you can review. We're also on the talkradio.nyc network, where they also stream the audio live as well as on their Facebook stream. And I advise you to take a look at all of the podcasts on this network, because it's a network of live podcasts, which I think is very interesting. You get a lot of spontaneity and a sense of, I think, vibrancy by listening to things that are live. And they range from small business to self-help to travel to stuff about New York City and other parts of the world. So go there if you get a chance. I also have another podcast called Wise Content Creates Wealth on that network. It's about marketing and AI. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. And I'll see you next week again for another fine podcast always on Tuesdays from 6 to 7, the gateway to the Smokies podcast. And I appreciate you all for listening today, and I'll see you then.